Hello, welcome to our Chapter 2, Section 1 notes. So this is Chapter 2 in our Government or Civics textbook. Chapter 2 begins on page 26. So today I'm going to walk us through in our textbook the Chapter 2, Section 1 notes that we will be covering. So we'll start on page 26 in our text, and the first couple of pages of Chapter 2 are introduction. And the actual chapter and text begins here on page 30. So if you have your textbook or have it online, if you want to go with me, you can turn to page 30. Chapter 2, section 1 is why Americans have governments. So every human being on Earth lives under a government almost completely. And all of us as Americans, anyone living in America, we have a government, or in fact, many governments over us, or at least that we are a part of. Now, there are lots of different kinds of governments. So, Chapter 2, Section 1 begins with types of government, and it lists at first non democratic governments. So, in a non democratic government, citizens do not have the power to rule. So, someone besides citizens rules in a non democratic government. So, the textbook lists three main kinds of non democratic governments: monarchies, which means a king or a queen, usually; dictatorships. A dictator means one person has absolute power. That could be a general or a king. Monarchies can be dictatorships, or one person just assumes power and has almost total power in that country. China today, many people would argue, is a dictatorship or close to a dictatorship. And lastly, the textbook talks about theocracies. Theocracies are governments based on a religion or a religious leader who has total power. Now, we live in a democratic government, or a society ruled by a democratic government. So what does that word democracy means? So a democracy means the people of a nation rule, either directly or indirectly by electing others to govern or rule for us. So in the other three types of government, non-democratic governments, the people do not rule. A small number of people rule over everyone else. And in theory, anyway, in a democratic government, the people rule. Now, how can that happen? How do the people rule themselves? Well, in a direct democracy, the people rule by voting on everything that happens. We do not live in a direct democracy. It would be very hard for all Americans to vote on every issue. So we live in what is called a republic, or a representative democracy. In a republic or a representative democracy, that means that we vote for people to become part of the government and make laws for us. So some people will run to be mayor of Fairmont City or Collinsville or Caseyville or Maryville. And then the mayor of Maryville, whoever wins the most votes, will serve 4 years as mayor or 2 years as a congressman or 6 years as a US senator, but will serve some short period of time, and they will be the ones who vote on the rules for us. And then they can run again, and then we, the people, can vote for them or against them. So why do we do this? Why do we even have government? So the text then talks about purposes of government. What is the point of electing people or even ruling as a theocracy? Or why did humans ever come up with this idea of government in the first place? So governments help people cooperate. So whenever groups of people have lived in a community together, we found it necessary to cooperate. Governments can do that by helping us provide services to each other, like roads or schools or police. And government can also provide laws. A written law that governs a whole society is called a constitution, a written plan of government. So Americans have used constitutions to establish national and state governments. We have a US Constitution, and we also have an Illinois Constitution, and you will have to take tests on both of them to graduate from high school. Lastly, the Constitution and our government guarantees freedom in the United States. So, our government is designed to safeguard each citizen's liberty, or at least many people would argue it is supposed to. So, we can say we have free speech, but if every time I stand on the street corner and say, this is what I believe in, if I kept getting punched in the nose by someone who disagreed with me, then my free speech would mean very little. But if a police officer would come and arrest the person punching me and guarantee my free speech, well, the government is helping me protect my rights to free speech. And so that is something else government can do. So that is all we have for Chapter 2, Section 1 notes, and those end on page 33. So please go back and read those on your own to yourself. Make sure you understand the key points. Feel free to watch this as many times as you want. And I'll see you next time with Chapter 2, Section 2 notes.